Hey, look, you guys see the whole squad. You haven't seen the whole squad in like 9 months. Steve got a different haircut and a huge Amish beard. Dan's been wearing the same hoodie since the last video. Hasn't changed it. The front alignment on all the body panels on this thing is not ready. But figured I'd show you guys what it looks like on the ground. Sitting nasty. It sits really low. Wanted it to look stock appearing. So, I mean, aside from the Pro Mod or Resto Mod stance, no major modifications were needed to the external body components. The intercooler and the grill is sick as hell. We'll probably end up like painting that little bit that you see right there. I think we're gonna paint that black. And then the intercooler pipe, which you can't really see right now, that'll end up getting powder coated. Because certain angles you could see it. Otherwise, super cool. What do you think, Dan? Super cool?
Yeah, nice big scoop in the middle eventually. Oh yeah, wow, that nose, all the body.
Yeah, all the front. I mean, it's just roughly bolted on right now. It's bolted on enough to look good on YouTube. That's what everybody else does. I can tell by the camera. Looks fantastic. Yeah, pull it again. You purposely push it off the edge?
No.
What? No way. All right, roll it forward so I can see the exhaust for these guys. They look pretty sweet. Sitting behind this thing in a light. Might have to put a sticker on this one. What do you guys think?
Just a little one.
Little quarter glass. Alright, so this is moving out of the fab side because it's done with the fab side. Well, 99%, maybe a couple odds and ends. And Banger Bob moving in. Huh? Yeah, no. We're just gonna tune it by feel like the carburetor guys do.
Back engaged.
Yeah. How's that work under boost?
Asking for a friend.
All of it.
Replugged. Sweet. Yeah.
Good morning and welcome back to the Streetcar Shenanigans YouTube channel. It has been a while since we've tuned in to you guys and you've been able to tune in to us. But I want to start off by saying thank you guys so much for getting us to 10,000 subscribers. That was a huge milestone and a good motivation to get back on the channel. But also, I haven't been uploading a lot of videos because I kind of felt bogged down with the amount of projects that we had in the shop. This being one, and it's going to be the topic of today's video. I want to show you guys milestone on Mark's Trans Am. This thing is super sweet. So quick backstory. Mark's actually had this car for many years. Raced it with a big block nitrous setup. It was primarily a drag car, and it blew up. It sat for 4 or 5 years, and now for the last 3 years he's been actively getting it back to streetcar status. So the biggest thing on this was that Mark called up, said, "Hey, I know people that know you. They strongly recommended that we bring the car to you to do the turbo fab stuff, and but I want you to come check it out at my house. Come check out the car, see if it's something you want to get involved in." And me always liking a challenge, when I got there, I looked at all the stuff he had to cram into this engine bay, and I was like, "Hoof, that's a freaking project." And he's like, "Yeah, but you think it's going to be able to be done?" And I'm like, "I don't know, but I'll definitely try." The requirements of this build are that it is very much a street car. So it has a 4L80 with a lockup converter. It has air conditioning, Hydro Boost power steering and brakes. Obviously a full fuel system capable of supporting monstrous horsepower. Oh, I forgot to start off with, it has a Borowski 427 with twin Bullseye 83s that has a ready dynoed at 1,870 flywheel horsepower. This thing is ridiculous. So we're excited to see it on the street. We're excited to see it come together. I mean, I'm pump gas. The thing made over 1,100 at the flywheel. So it's definitely going to be a very capable unit. I'll show you guys a little bit more about the car. It's kind of set up as like a pro touring trim. You know, it's got 18-inch front wheel forge lines, 19s out back, 325 tire. It's got huge Brembo brakes, or Bear brakes, I'm sorry. 6-piston front and rear with 15-inch rotors. Detroit speed front and rear suspension. The rear has been converted to like a 4-link deal, sway bar. We had to add a bunch of stuff. Really, really crazy suspension components and brakes. The front and rear subframes are tied into each other, which we did quite a bit of. It's, like I said, it's been converted to 4-link, so it's got a lot of work done there. But our primary objective started off as just a turbo kit. We wanted to be able to put the hot side, cold side in. We quickly realized that the Detroit front clip and all the other units that are in the front was going to make it really, really difficult. So it turned into a really unique project. And I'm thankful that Mark kind of gave me creative freedom to say, hey, however you think it's going to work, let's get it. So let's just kind of dive right into some of the details. So what you see front and center, which the front isn't on it, but it will be shortly here, and I'll show you guys what it looks like, is a custom-made intercooler. Now this thing's kind of unique, and it's kind of a test, because I talked to some major intercooler manufacturers, and they kind of were like, I don't know if I would do it this way, but I really don't have much options. I mean, the front of these cars, even though the car itself is big and the engine bay looks like there's a ton of room in it, the front is like really squinty. So there's not really a whole lot of height like on a modern car where the front end is just this huge cooling stack. This isn't like that. I don't have as much room to work with. So I needed to get an in from each turbo. I'll show you that first. So there's one equals this side. Another one. Wiring harness is just kind of thrown in there for right now. So how this is set up is that this intercooler is mounted, obviously, and it blows into the backside of this end tank, disperses through the center, and then gets to the center. That's the hood release, so don't mind that. This, where these two welds are, there's a plate that's welded to the top. It's got a hoop in the bottom, and that's kind of the divider that creates a Y merge, trying to direct that flow down into this bottom exit and exit around, and then it comes up and eventually into the engine. I think it's gonna work pretty good. I use Bell cores. This is their high efficiency core because I am limited on space and I am not limited on boost. So their high efficiency core boasts better temperature drops, but at the cost of more than likely increase in pressure drop across the core. Well, I can make as much pressure as I want with one of these bad boys. So I am not too worried about the pressure drop. I am worried about the temperature drop. So that's how we've built that. It worked out pretty good. Behind that is an AC condenser, which is actually mounted to the radiator. And then there's a radiator and fan shroud. And then on the bottom of all that, what you can see right there, is the transcooler. So all the cooling is all done in the front, just like some of these modern swap muscle cars. And then the lower valence ends at the core support, but you can see that the transcooler is fully exposed after that. So it should work out pretty good as far as cooling's concerned. But let's take a look at the engine bay. It turned out super, super sick. It's not 100% complete, obviously. The next step of this project is Dan is going to be wiring it, plumbing it. We have a little bit of fab work to do. We have to make the AC lines. I'm sure that's going to require a bunch of custom components and such things like that. But otherwise, for the most part, it's pretty much wrapped up. I mean, we got AN fittings welded on the water pump and thermostat housing, so that's ready. The radiator is modified to accept AN lines, so we changed all that over. It does have a billet 16 injector manifold. This is going to be using an M-Tron system, which was part of this Borowski kit. So we're excited to use a new platform. Now you can see kind of the goal of this engine bay was obviously symmetry. These are not symmetrical turbos, so this was the best I could do given with what I had. And you can see there's a little bit of a difference in the hot, what I guess some people would call up pipes going into the turbo. We did decide to recirculate the wastegates, so that's going to be really cool because this thing on the street is probably only going to run on wastegate spring. And you know, it's probably 700-800 wheel horsepower, but at least when they open, it's not going to sound like a Banshee all the time. It'll keep it nice and quiet. They turned out super nice. Wastegates are roughly in like the same location side to side, even though the tubing doesn't match. The wastegate location does. So that was kind of a cool touch. Obviously, try to keep symmetry with the blow-off valves. We use the Vibrant next-gen clamps, which are really, really just badass looking. The new ones have a V on this side, which is kind of lame. I liked it better like this, where you can hide it if you wanted to. We gutted the drive-by-wire throttle body system to weld that on, and then rebuilt the throttle body. These turbos are so sweet. As you can see, the wheel wells are all modified, so these were put in. I kind of just decided how to shape them, and then this side I had to add some back in. I cut too much away. So you can see I have a little bit more metal work on this side done, where this side was pretty much trimmed slowly and get it taken care of, and then I had to add some back there after I cut too much out of it. The headers were custom made by us in-house, so that worked out pretty good. The up and forward was necessary because of the Detroit Speed frame down there. There was not room to kind of come low. So everything on this thing quickly turned into, well, let's just hide it all. So Borowski had the coils mounted on the valve covers. We moved that. I'll show you guys that on the bottom. Obviously, we just wanted the turbos, headers, and engine to be on display in the engine bay, and everything that makes it happen is going to be hidden underneath the car. So very, very cool. Some of the stuff that Mark did was brake lines and this fuel regulator. Unfortunately, now with this turbo setup, that stuff's probably going to have to move. So we'll likely be taking this fender off, moving those items, tuck them back into that corner. Once again, super clean, you won't see it. And then that side's kind of slated for all the AC stuff. One of the things that he really wanted was 4-inch exhaust. So we did 4-inch exhaust, obviously, out of each turbo, and we ran that all the way back to the bumper. So that is a really unique part of this project, and I'll show you guys once it's up in the air. As far as mounting everything, it was kind of difficult. Nobody really makes a tubular core support, and I didn't really want to make a tubular core support. So I ended up just like gutting all the core support out of it. And that actually worked out really, really well. It kind of gave me a good skeleton to work with. It's very strong still. I don't think that added much strength at all. So I was able to mount the radiator. You can see my tabs that I made there. There's tabs on the bottom, core support to hold the radiator in. And this whole front kind of blows apart pretty quickly. Now everything is intertwined together. So when I say blow apart, you basically just take everything off of it. You know, you take the wheel wells out, you take the downpipes out through the wheel wells, and then you could just explode the whole front of this car, and it leaves you with just the motor and headers in the car. So service work won't be too much of a pain, but once you start taking one thing out, you'll end up taking everything out. One of the last things to do in here is the shaker scoop. So I got it over here, coming up with a mounting system. So it's got holes here, because this needs to end up like that-ish. It'll be painted and everything, obviously, but I kind of have the idea for the mounting system. I just gotta get it made. I'll show you guys the rest of the car while it's down on the ground before we go up in the air. Pretty cool, unique, like Tiffany blue paint job. Like I said, the wheels and the brakes are sweet. It does have like a roll bar in it, not necessarily to any particular cert, but it is like a 850-esque with like road race door bars. And whoever did it did a pretty nice job. Everything's tucked in nicely. There's obviously a lot of work to do in the interior still. There's your rear wheel and brake. There's the exhaust, which we tried to follow the body line, which turned out sick, and then dumped in the back. All right, so you guys saw the top. Oh, we had to do some hood modifications. I didn't show you guys that, but the turbos just sat a little bit too high. So this side, I just put a piece of steel in there, welded it in. Needs a little bit of paint. And then this side, the turbos are not symmetrical, so this side interferes with the hood more because this volute is larger going into the intercooler. The angle that it goes in. So this one needed a bigger piece, unfortunately. But once it's painted, it's gonna be good to go. All right, so the next thing I want to show you guys, put it up in the air, show you what the exhaust came out like. A lot of the custom stuff we did on the bottom, which is where the last few weeks have been spent. And then that's gonna pretty much wrap up this build for you. So I think this project started off as, I need you guys to do the hot side, cold side, and we need a trans cross member made. And really snowballed quickly after that. So it's a little dark under here, but I'll try to show you guys what we did. So let's start at the trans cross member because that was planned. So this was kind of improvised. I saw some other setups that were kind of like this. Basically, we graphed some bars into the floor, welded those in as much as we could. Those turned out nice, put some tabs on it, and then we had designed this custom trans cross member, which turned out super nice. It's not painted yet. I'm going to powder coat it with a bunch of other stuff we got to get powder coated, but I really, really like how that came out. We had to locate the engine and the transmission, obviously, before doing any of the turbo kit. So that was one of the first things that we actually did. As you can see, it's got a 4L80. It does have a dump valve that we have to figure out where we're going to mount that because there's like not a whole lot of room under here. But it's got a, I believe it's a Circle D. Actually, I don't even know. I think it's PTC converter. I forget who he said. But it is a triple disc lockup 4L80 converter, bonafide flex plate. Then he's got everything else. Very top-notch parts used in here because hopefully reliability comes with horsepower in this case. So some of the custom stuff that we did was obviously, let's just take a look at the exhaust because it is so sweet. I'm really happy with how this came out. Twin 4-inch all the way back, tucked up really nice. He says he has like twice the ground clearance that his old exhaust used to have, and it was only 3-inch. So this is what custom fab gets you, and everything fits really well. One of the coolest, craziest things we did was got it to go over the axle. And it actually converts to an oval. You can hardly see it right there. But it converts to oval, flattens out, goes over the axle, and then adapts back down to 4-inch round to come round and back out. It comes out pretty easily. The over axle parts stay in unless you drop the shocks. So basically, if you have to service it, you can take that center section out, comes down 5 seconds. Then the center over the axle parts, basically leave the whole back half in. But if needed, you could take the tailpipes off individually if there's something that you needed to do with that. Tailpipes came out mint. They look so good. And really the whole exhaust is one of the best that I've been able to make, I think. I'm really happy with it. Super flat. I didn't think there was any need for an X-pipe given the size of the exhaust and being that it's a turbo car anyway. So I just did some design, which is really sweet. Add some strength to the mid pipe. We did do a mount here. So the reason how this works is that this was kind of thick. I had to struggle getting like a riv nut so you can mount these. So I basically made a plate with 2 nuts on it, and then this holds the plate in place, and then those screw into said plate, so you don't have to scramble around with parts floating around inside of there, which was pretty cool. We had to do this sway bar add in. You can see some of the plumbing got in the way, so now we have to move the fuel lines. Made these tie downs. This kit had some other, I don't want to say hokey, but definitely didn't look as nice as these, but it had some tie downs that got in the way of these V-band clamps. So we got rid of that and put these on there, so now he could still tie it down to the trailer easily because there's not really a good place to do that. What else we got? Oh, he wanted to do a mid plate, and I was not opposed to the mid plate because the turbo kit is so tight on this thing. I mean, everything is super tight. So we decided to do a mid plate, and we decided to do it like modular basically. So it's got a block plate with some mounting bolts, and then it's got the tab on the frame rail, which is normal, but the mid plate itself is 3 pieces. So center and then the 2 outsides. That allows you to take those out and gives you extra room if you have to finagle with the exhaust at some point, get the exhaust out of the car. You don't have to fight with the mid plate getting in the way. And it works pretty well. I was able to actually take the both motor mounts out in order to do these coil pack mounts, which we'll get to next. But I was able to take the motor mount out. It did not move at all. I was able to slide the motor mount out of there, do my modifications to the frame rail that I needed to do this part of the project, and then slide it back in. It literally didn't move at all. So the mid plate's gonna work pretty good. The next thing is the coil mounts. So everybody who sees these up and forward headers is like, what are you gonna do for spark plug wires? Or how are you gonna change plugs? Well, one, he's got a lift at his house. So, you know, you're gonna change the oil on this thing once a year. You're gonna put plugs in it once a year. It's really not that bad from down here. You know, once you pull that coil pack out of the way, you could do plugs here really quickly. So we designed the coil mounts with ease of removal. So this is a Maven billet mount to stack these 4 like this. And then we designed a custom plate basically to mount them off the frame rail. Now these aren't even side to side, so there's a steering shaft in the way on the driver's side, but they did turn out really good. You can get them in and out in like 5 seconds. So not a big deal whatsoever. And once you pull them out of the way, you can pull all the plugs easily. And if you're at the track or something, you can still get to the rear plug on this side from the top really easily. So we could at least check one. But with the M-Tron system on here, it does have knock sensors and all the other sensors we need to monitor. So even though we will continue to check spark plugs, this one does have a little bit more data than usual. Here's the other side. You can kind of see the design of the bracket more. The other one kind of has that same design. But this one had to be mounted to get out of the way of the steering shaft, which is right there. So that's what made this side different. So it had to be lower and more inside. So this side we fought the starter, this side we fought the steering, and I think ultimately it came out pretty good. So there's the bottom of it. There's the trans cooler and everything else. Simple. We had the lower valance doesn't give you a whole lot of room, so you can see I had to notch the charge pipe right there to fit around the radiator. But everything else looks really good. Shows how tight everything is. Do the wheel well. So it turns out we don't just do Mustangs. So this has been a very unique build. You guys will see this start and run on the channel. The fabrication side of it is all done. So the nose can go on. I just wanted to show you guys everything that's on here. But literally everything on here is custom mounted. There's nothing that is 71 Firebird or Trans Am on here anywhere. I mean, everything had to be changed, moved, different, modernized. So what started off as a turbo kit and a trans cross member has now become a one-off, super badass street car. It's gonna do burnouts for blocks and blocks. I'm really curious to see how it'll run, how it's gonna work with different types of tires, how's the suspension gonna work. I hear the 454 truck coming in. You guys haven't seen this yet, but that's gonna be the next video because I'm gonna shoot that today too. Let's see if Dan brings it in. Sounds so good. There it is. So you guys will see that in the next video because we're going to shoot that. Steve just washed it, got it ready for its close-up. and it's going back home. We made some changes to it, but you guys will see that all in a future video. But anyway, Mark's 71 Trans Am ready to go over to Dan, get it wired, plumbed, and hopefully get this thing fired up. The goal was to get it fired before the end of the year. Probably not quite on pace for that, but shouldn't be far off. It'll definitely be roaming around this area in springtime for sure. So if you guys have any questions about the build or about what it takes to do something like that, obviously feel free to hit us up in the comments. We're really excited to see what these Bullseye turbos can do, how this engine runs. It's a hydraulic roller, 427. I think it's like 10 to 1. Well, I mean, I already told you guys made like 1800 flywheel turned up on C16. So it'll be really interesting to see what the capabilities of this project become. I don't think the cage is quite certable. So that's kind of a bummer because this is kind of be a fun drag and drive car. I mean, it's built with a lot of cooling in mind. And being that drag and drive is like the hottest thing since sliced bread right now, it would be cool if this could compete at a 850 level. It's definitely got 850 power capabilities or better, but without having to step on it and try to survive the week, bringing it down wouldn't be a bad idea. So lots to learn, lots to go, but it's a sweet project, so make sure you stay in tune with it. Share it with any of your GM buddies that are into cool custom shit, because this is some really cool custom shit. Thank you guys so much for checking in and seeing if we're still alive. We are alive and well. We have a lot of projects that we're keeping up with, and we're going to keep you guys in touch with them all winter. So make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification, share this video if you think this thing is one of the wildest Trans Ams that you've seen, and we'll see you guys here shortly in the future.